Welcome to Topic 501, Classifying Urban Ecosystem Services, developed within the EPD-Net project, Filling the Gap, Ecological Planning and Design Learning Network, an adaptive smart training module for disaster-resilient and sustainable cities. In this session, we explore how urban ecosystems generate essential benefits for society, how these services are classified, and why understanding them is critical for sustainable urban planning. We will begin by defining ecosystem services and examining the major classification systems. We will then focus on ecosystem services in urban environments, explore urban ecosystem disservices, and discuss how these concepts support urban planning and green infrastructure design. A case study will be summarized at the end of the session. By the end of this session, you will understand the concept of ecosystem services, learn how ecosystem services are classified into provisioning, regulating, supporting, and cultural categories, and be able to apply these classifications in urban planning and the design of green infrastructure. Ecosystem services are generally defined as the direct and indirect contributions or benefits that human beings obtain from ecosystem functions. Ecosystem functions are the underlying ecological processes that happen in nature, while ecosystem services are the aspects of those processes that are directly relevant or beneficial to humans. At its core, the concept highlights humanity's fundamental dependence on the flow of benefits provided by ecosystems. These benefits are derived from natural capital, the biotic and abiotic components of ecosystems. The ecosystem services flowchart describes how nature is transformed into human benefits and value through a step-by-step pathway. It links ecological structures to societal outcomes. This linear flow helps planners, ecologists, and policymakers understand how nature generates value, and where interventions can enhance or degrade ecosystem service delivery. Human species is fundamentally dependent on the flow of ecosystem services. The ecosystem services concept emphasizes that ecological functions are relevant or beneficial to human well-being. They provide the life support systems necessary to sustain long-term conditions for life, security, and health. Globally, the observed rapid degradation of ecosystems and their ability to generate services necessitates a better understanding of how to maintain these functions, as degradation has adverse effects on human well-being. The concept of ecosystem services is influential and important because it provides a framework to quantify and communicate profound reliance of human society, especially in urban environments, on the natural world. The history of the ecosystem services concept reflects a growing recognition, moving from initial, philosophical ideas to structured scientific and political frameworks. The most widely accepted frameworks, such as the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment and the Economics of Ecosystems and Biodiversity, categorize ecosystem services into four main types. Provisioning services are the material products or goods obtained from ecosystems. Examples include food, fresh water, wood fuel, and genetic resources. Regulating services are benefits obtained from the natural regulation of ecosystem processes, maintaining environmental conditions beneficial to individuals and society. They include air purification, local climate regulation/urban cooling, carbon sequestration and storage, etc. Supporting or habitat services are necessary ecological functions that underpin the production of all other services. They include processes like soil formation, nutrient cycling, water cycling, and providing habitats for species and genetic diversity. Finally, cultural services are the non-material benefits people obtain from ecosystems, often through spiritual enrichment, cognitive development, recreation, aesthetic experience, and social relations. The term urban ecosystem services is an influential concept to guide planning, design, and management toward urban sustainability. There are two primary interpretations of use, reflecting the complex nature of cities. Narrow interpretation, use sensu stricto, refers to ecosystem services produced exclusively from natural or semi-natural spaces within urban boundaries, such as parks, wetlands, gardens, and urban forests. This interpretation is most common in the literature. On the other hand, broad interpretation views the entire city as a human-dominated ecosystem, encompassing services from natural ecosystems and human-generated urban services like housing, transport, and education. Either way, the ecosystem service concept is crucial for urban areas because it is a vital tool for addressing the enormous challenges posed by urbanization, enhancing quality of life, and enabling sustainable development. Cities globally are facing severe environmental challenges like floods, air pollution, and extremely high temperatures, which negatively affect residents' health. Urban ecosystem services offer nature-based solutions to some pressing issues. For instance, regulating climate and air quality, managing water and extreme events, and increasing resilience. Urban ecosystems, particularly green infrastructure, are important in providing services such as mitigating the urban heat island effect, absorbing pollutants like particulate matter and nitrogen oxides, and carbon sequestration and storage. Green spaces contribute to water flow regulation and runoff mitigation, helping to reduce the risk of flooding and landslides by intercepting water and binding soil. The concept of urban ecosystem services, especially when recognizing the contribution of ecological infrastructure, enhances the ability of cities to cope with disturbances and adapt to climate change. Loss of green infrastructure can lead to decreases in resilience-related insurance values, increasing vulnerability to shocks such as heat waves or flooding events. Urban ecosystem services directly contribute to the health and prosperity of urban populations, which are increasingly concentrated in cities. Green spaces provide direct and indirect benefits to human health and well-being. This includes promoting mental and physical fitness through recreational opportunities, reducing mortality rates, and generally enhancing health. Moreover, cultural services, such as aesthetic appreciation, recreation, and education, are essential benefits provided by urban green spaces like parks, gardens, and street trees. The experience of nature in cities helps counteract the extinction of experience of nature and fosters environmental stewardship. Even though urban provisioning services may be secondary compared to rural areas, locally produced food from urban farms and allotments can also contribute to food security and meet basic nutritional requirements, particularly in times of crisis. Ecosystem services provides a necessary framework for integrating ecological considerations into routine planning and decision-making processes. This approach helps planners and designers address the imperative to act to make future urban environments more sustainable. It also promotes green infrastructure, a strategically planned network of green and blue spaces, by explicitly identifying and assessing its multiple functions at various scales. Assessing and mapping the supply and demand of urban ecosystem services helps decision-makers identify areas of priority intervention, evaluate potential ecological deficits or surpluses, and determine where nature-based solutions should be implemented. Furthermore, the Urban Ecosystem Services Framework makes it possible to analyze trade-offs and synergies where multiple benefits occur simultaneously. A trade-off occurs when increasing the provision of one ecosystem service results in the reduction of another service. For instance, clearing a forest patch to create a park might increase recreation but reduce biodiversity. In essence, adopting the ecosystem services concept allows cities to view their natural assets not just as amenities, but as essential, functioning infrastructure that provides necessary life support and resilience. The classification of ecosystem services in an urban context generally follows the established global frameworks, primarily the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment and the Economics of Ecosystems and Biodiversity, which divide services into four core categories: provisioning, regulating, cultural, and supporting, also called habitat services. Provisioning services relate to tangible products consumed by humans. Urban ecosystem services can serve as a critical safety net during social or economic disturbances. Food supply and production includes vegetables produced by urban allotments, community gardens, backyards, rooftops, and peri-urban farm fields. Ecosystems also provide cities with fresh water by securing storage and controlled release of water flows. This includes harvesting stormwater for reuse. Stormwater harvesting enables cities to reuse water for non-potable purposes, such as irrigation, groundwater recharge, street cleaning, and ecosystem restoration. Ecosystems can help retain stormwater through green roofs and biosols, which intercept rainfall and delay runoff, constructed wetlands, which filter and retain stormwater while providing habitat, and landscape functions and rain gardens, which promote percolation and reduce the load on grey infrastructure. Urban ecosystems can provide resources such as timber, fuel, and materials as well. For example, green waste from parks and other green spaces generate usable wood, which can be transformed into construction material, mulch, compost, or energy biomass. All these support circular economy strategies and contribute to sustainable urban development. Regulating services are the most frequently studied category of urban ecosystem services, as they help mitigate major urban environmental challenges, such as air pollution, floods, and high temperatures. Temperature regulation is achieved through shading and evapotranspiration provided by vegetation, buffering heat island effects, while water areas moderate temperature by absorbing heat. Urban vegetation, including street trees and forests, purifies air by absorbing pollutants like particulate matter and nitrogen oxides. Soil and vegetation also infiltrate water during heavy precipitation, reducing runoff, stormwater discharge, and flood risk. Urban vegetation acts as a carbon sink through photosynthesis, contributing to climate regulation, and can reduce traffic noise along major routes. Urban ecosystems additionally support pollinators such as bees and other insects essential for urban and peri-urban agriculture. They also filter, retain, and decompose nutrients and organic waste, such as through ponds treating wastewater. Regulating services interact synergistically. For example, urban cooling can improve air quality by reducing ozone formation. Research shows that vegetation structural diversity, layered canopies, shrubs, and ground covers enhances regulating performance by supporting complex ecological processes. Hydrological regulation further improves when green infrastructure is integrated with urban drainage, forming hybrid gray-green systems resilient to climate-induced extreme rainfall. Long-term monitoring also demonstrates that regulating services increase over time as tree canopies mature, soils develop, and ecological networks become more connected, emphasizing the importance of sustained urban ecological management. Supporting services form the ecological foundation upon which all other ecosystem services depend. Urban systems such as parks, cemeteries, community gardens, allotments, and green roofs serve as important refuges and habitats for a wide range of species, including birds, bees, butterflies, and other pollinators essential to urban and peri-urban agriculture. Research shows that structurally complex green roofs can effectively support species displaced by urban land use change, making them an increasingly valuable tool in biodiversity-oriented urban design. Maintenance of genetic diversity is another critical dimension of supporting services. Genetic diversity enhances species resilience to environmental stresses, including heat waves and pollution, all of which are becoming more frequent. These services are closely linked to fundamental processes, such as soil formation, nutrient cycling, and primary productivity. Soil formation contributes to urban resilience by retaining water, supporting vegetation, and buffering contaminants, thereby strengthening plant establishment and hydrological regulation. Nutrient cycling ensures continuous renewal of essential nutrients in urban soils, sustaining plant growth and supporting green infrastructure productivity. These core processes sustain urban ecosystem services and are vital for the long-term multifunctionality of urban landscapes. Cultural services provide non-material benefits for the human experience and well-being in urban settings. Parks, gardens, urban forests, and recreational areas offer possibilities for recreation, which can reduce stress and anxiety, promote physical activity, and enhance mental fitness. Beyond recreation, urban landscapes also contribute significantly to the aesthetic quality of the built environment. Green spaces, trees, and seasonal vegetation patterns enhance visual appeal, create distinctive place identities, and provide inspiration for culture, art, and design. Cultural services also encompass spiritual experiences and sense of place. Throughout history, trees, plants, and natural elements have held symbolic, spiritual, and psychological importance in cultural and religious practices. In the urban context, natural features continue to generate emotional attachment, serve as landmarks, and strengthen community identity. Moreover, urban green areas provide substantial educational benefits. Parks, botanic gardens, and naturalized schoolyards function as open-air classrooms where individuals of all ages can learn about biodiversity, ecological processes, and environmental stewardship. Such learning environments foster environmental awareness and cultivate pro-environmental behaviors. While urban ecosystems provide many valuable services, it is equally important to recognize that they can also generate ecosystem disservices, that is, ecological functions or processes that negatively affect human well-being. For example, certain urban tree species emit volatile organic compounds, which can contribute to the formation of urban smog and exacerbate ground-level ozone problems. Allergies caused by wind-pollinated plants also represent a common disservice, especially during peak pollen seasons. Similarly, diseases transmitted by animals, such as migratory birds and stray dogs, can pose public health risks. Urban vegetation may also damage built infrastructure. The root systems of large trees can break pavements or disturb underground utilities. Microbial activity decomposing wooden structures and bird excrement corroding stone surfaces are additional. Tall trees may even become disservices when they block important views or reduce natural light penetration. Finally, some green spaces may create perceived safety concerns, especially in poorly lit or densely vegetated areas. Overall, understanding ecosystem disservices helps planners balance ecological benefits with potential risks and design urban green infrastructure that maximizes positive outcomes while minimizing unintended negative effects. Applying ecosystem services classifications to urban planning and green infrastructure design provides a systematic framework for enhancing urban sustainability, maximizing ecological benefits, and informing land use decisions. The starting point is to shift the focus from traditional gray infrastructure to integrated, multifunctional green and blue solutions that provide multiple benefits. The initial step is to define the relevant urban ecosystem services goals for the specific plan or project. After identification, planners must prioritize these goals and assess the inherent complexity of urban systems. The ecosystem services concept is essential for explicitly identifying and assessing the multiple functions. It is crucial to anticipate trade-offs and synergies between services. Understanding these relationships helps inform policy to maximize quality of life and avoid unintended negative consequences. Effective application relies on spatially explicit quantification of where services are supplied and where they are needed. This requires appropriate data and methods, often using geographic information systems. Ecosystem service models and mapping techniques are used to assess the current and demand. In this context, indicators and metrics are essential tools. Indicators are measures or proxy variables that represent the presence, capacity, or performance of an ecosystem service. For example, tree canopy cover as an indicator of cooling or air purification, or permeable surface ratio as an indicator of stormwater regulation. Whereas metrics are the quantitative values derived from indicators. For instance, kg of particulate matter removed per year by urban vegetation, or number of recreational visits per year to a park. Focusing on final ecosystem services is necessary to ensure that assessments are relevant for planning decisions. By comparing supply and demand, planners can identify mismatches, deficits, and surpluses. This spatial information allows city districts to be clustered into categories based on intervention priority. The strategic vehicle for delivering classified urban ecosystem services is green infrastructure. Design should focus on achieving multifunctionality, meaning a single green space or element provides multiple services simultaneously. The classification of priority areas guides the selection of appropriate design actions, such as realizing new green areas, recovering the functionality of degraded systems, improving the state of existing areas. Given the complexity and uncertainty of urban ecological systems, the planning and design process should be iterative and adaptive, encouraging innovation in a low-risk context. Advanced tools like geodesign, which merge GIS analysis with design proposals and impact simulations, allow planners to visualize scenarios and evaluate the impacts of different land use options on ecosystem services early in the planning process. The implementation of classified use is institutionalized through various tools. For example, scoring systems, such as the biotope area factor or green area factor, can be used as regulatory policies to promote green infrastructure practices in new developments and ensure developers meet specific standards, providing services like improving air quality and reducing stormwater runoff. In this case study, you will be introduced the Green Revision Guidebook, a comprehensive framework developed through a collaborative initiative led by Izmir Metropolitan Municipality and the Landscape Research Society in Turkey, which provides practical and scientifically grounded guidelines for integrating ecological principles into urban planning and green infrastructure design. It aims to provide a framework for resilient cities to adapt to climate change with a green focus. The project developed climate models, land cover change modeling, and mapped urban ecosystem services in the case of Izmir City. We will focus on the ecosystem mapping part in context of this topic. The ecosystem services mapping in Bolsover district of Izmir identifies and quantifies the capacity of urban green areas to provide key regulating services, such as runoff retention, carbon sequestration, and air purification. The multi-method approach combines field data, satellite imagery, established ecological models, and spatial analysis to produce a detailed map of the regulating ecosystem services in Bolsover district. The analysis shows that natural vegetation areas have the highest potential for regulating services, with agricultural lands also contributing significantly due to citrus plantations. In contrast, urban green spaces in built-up areas, often small and with high impervious surfaces, have limited contribution to these services. Additionally, the findings indicate that ecosystem service levels are unevenly distributed across the district, increasing with greater canopy cover and tree density. Mapping ecosystem services significantly contributed to the recommendations and overall objectives of the project by providing a detailed, spatially explicit understanding of how different green areas in Bolsover support ecological functions. In sum, ecosystem service mapping provides a scientific foundation for strategic, targeted, and effective urban planning and environmental management, ensuring that recommendations are rooted in spatially accurate, ecological data. Given that most of the world's population resides in cities, urban ecosystem services play a vital role in addressing major urban challenges and ensuring livability. In summary, urban ecosystems can provide services to mitigate environmental challenges, such as extremely high temperatures, floods, and air pollution, which negatively affect residents' health. They contribute significantly to a higher quality of life and health for inhabitants, promoting healthier and more contented communities. Ecosystem services enhance the ability of cities to cope with disturbances and adapt to climate change, contributing a form of insurance value. Conserving and restoring ecosystem services in urban areas can help reduce the ecological footprints and ecological debt cities owe to non-urban environments. The inclusion of ecosystem services is essential to promote sustainable urban development. Ecosystem services knowledge supports decision-making at conceptual, strategic, and instrumental levels.